Okay, so picture this. A K-pop group is absolutely dominating the charts, breaking records left and right, and just becoming this huge global sensation. Now, what if I told you that group isn't even real? Well, that's exactly what happened. They're the fictional stars from the show K-Pop Demon Hunters, but their success? Oh, it's very, very real. Today we're going to break down how this group, Hunt X, went from just a concept for a TV show to a full-blown cultural phenomenon.
Let's just start with this number, because honestly, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. The show's soundtrack has been streamed over 362 million times around the world. No, that's not a typo. 362 million. That one number tells you pretty much everything you need to know about how huge this whole thing has become.
And to really put that success into perspective, Hunter/X became the longest-running #1 girl group of the 21st century on the Billboard Hot 100. So whose record did they break? Oh, just one of the most iconic groups of all time, Destiny's Child. Yeah, this wasn't just a hit song, this was a history-making moment.
So let's really dig into that. How on earth does a fictional group pull off a record-breaking run like this? Well, the numbers behind their lead single, Golden, they tell this incredible story of just total chart domination.
And look, their success wasn't just on one chart, it was absolutely everywhere. The soundtrack itself basically set up camp on the Billboard 200 for 15 weeks. The single Golden, it owned the Hot 100 for 8 weeks straight. And on the Global 200 chart, it was the longest-running #1 of the entire year. They didn't just have a hit, they totally conquered the charts.
I mean, think about that for a second. 15 weeks on the Billboard 200 album chart. That's almost 4 months. This was not some flash-in-the-pan viral moment that just disappeared. This music had some serious staying power. It really connected with people week after week.
But out of all the records, this one might be the most important. Golden became the very first song by a female K-pop act to ever hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That is so much more than a record. It's a cultural landmark. It shattered a ceiling and set a whole new standard.
But chart data and numbers, they only tell part of the story. To really get the impact, we've got to go from the charts to, well, the hearts of the people who are listening. Let's look at how all this success actually showed up in some real personal moments for the artists who brought this music to life.
So the first real sign of just how big this whole thing had become happened at about 30,000 feet. One of the singers was on a flight to Korea, and what happened next was just completely surreal.
Can you even imagine? She's trying to be low-key, right? She's wearing a mask, a hat, the whole deal, and she still gets recognized. But it wasn't just one flight attendant, the entire cabin crew, and even both pilots came over to her seat just to say hello. That's when you know. That's when you know your music has reached literally every corner of the world.
Okay, so back on the ground, let's head to the super busy Dongdaemun station in Seoul. This is where another completely unexpected encounter happened, and this one carried a really special kind of cultural weight.
One of the artists saw this elderly man who she said was totally swagged out, performing Golden on a traditional Korean instrument. And you have to understand, in Korean culture, earning the respect of the older generation, that is a huge, huge deal. So to see this man just embracing their modern pop song like that, wow, that was an incredibly powerful moment. For our final story in this section, we're going to a place that feels like a second home for so many Korean Americans. The supermarket, H-Mart. So she's just there, picking up some noodles, and she hears a 5-year-old boy just belting out Golden at the top of his lungs. As she put it, I just cried at H-Mart. Because, hearing your song on the radio was one thing, but hearing it from a little kid just singing with that pure joy, that hits on a whole different level. So, how in the world you even make a song that can make someone cry in a supermarket? Well, the story behind Golden is pretty fascinating. It's a story of modern collaboration, sudden inspiration, and maybe even a ghost. So yeah, where does a #1 hit like this actually come from? You might be picturing some fancy studio, months of planning, but the real story is so much more spontaneous than that. It all started in the back of a cab. A writer got the instrumental track sent to her while she was on her way to the dentist, of all places, and the melody just hit her right then and there, so she recorded it as a voice memo on her phone. The rest of the song was finished over a Zoom call. I mean, it is the perfect story of how a modern smash hit gets made.
So you have the credited writers, the producers, they created something amazing.
But according to one of the singers, they might not have been the only ones working on the track.
Get this, while she's recording her vocals, the volume knob in the booth just suddenly stops working. She hears someone walk in, and she figures, okay, it's an engineer coming to fix it, but when she looks up, nobody's there. And for just a split second, she saw what she could only describe as a grunge ghost, a tall guy in a flannel shirt.
And this is where this story gets truly wild. There is a famous superstition in the Korean music industry. If you see a ghost while you're recording a song, that song is destined to be a massive hit. So it kind of seems like this particular ghost knew exactly what it was doing.
So, we've seen the numbers, we've heard the personal stories, we've even met a friendly ghost. But to really understand why this project matters so much, we have to look beyond the music charts and into something a lot deeper: its cultural significance. For one of the artists, the single most powerful moment of this whole experience wasn't hitting #1, it wasn't getting a platinum record. It was actually something she saw in the first 5 minutes of the TV show itself, something that took her right back to her own childhood.
She talks about being one of the only Korean kids in her school. Her mom would pack her kimbap for lunch, but she was so scared that other kids would make fun of her stinky food that she'd hide her lunchbox and just sneak out one little piece at a time so nobody would see.
And this is the real power of this whole phenomenon. The very same food that was a source of so much childhood shame, the kimbap she used to hide in her Barbie lunchbox, was now being beautifully animated and celebrated in a show for millions of people to see. That is a complete full-circle journey from hiding your culture to seeing it embraced on a global stage.
In the end, the success of Golden and this whole project isn't just about the numbers. It's about representation, it's about cultural pride, and it's about healing old wounds. Which really leaves us with one final thought. When a song becomes powerful enough to break world records, what else, what hidden hurt or forgotten memory can it also help to heal?